Jiu-jitsu, mental health, getting older on the mat, getting beat up a little bit. The average person now that's been doing jiu-jitsu as long as us, they're usually probably not a professional jiu-jitsu guy. And if they were, they're probably reaching the end of that career. And so one of the things that you start to see is when your body starts to get beat up because you're getting a little bit older in life and you're not able to train all day long, and then you don't get that mat time, it really affects your mental health, which you and I were just talking about our necks and going through that stuff. So finding better partners, finding better habits, but we talk about life changing modern medicine. So peptides or stem cells, all kinds of stuff now are hopefully keeping older grapplers younger and on the mats longer. I was just having dinner with Alberto Crane not long ago, and he was like, man, like you're understanding now that the goal every day on the mat isn't to win every match. It's to find ways to stay on the mat till you're in your 70s. And so you're coming off a pretty serious neck injury, man. So talk about some of the things you've been doing to try and find that fountain of youth or make sure you can keep your body healthy enough even when it's injured to maybe speed that process up or keep you young on the mats longer.
Yeah, great question. So again, another disclaimer, like I'm not a doctor. I have no medical background. So I could just tell you a little bit about my experiences. I had a bad neck from wrestling, all through college, and then jiu-jitsu probably didn't help. So I've had 2 surgeries on my neck. One was they went in through the back and did a procedure probably 7 years ago. And it did give me relief. I was getting weakness in my left arm. That was the kind of the telltale sign for me. Like pain is pretty easily managed. I had a doctor say this, like that they're pretty good at stopping pain or minimizing pain. They're not very good at restoring function. So I had this surgery and I got mobility and strength back in my arm, and then it just degraded again. So I had a 2-level fusion. They went in through the front last summer and they fused 2 levels. So I got like 6 screws, 2 plates, 2 cages in there now. And so, the hope is to relieve that pressure on the neck. So I will say this, like doing jiu-jitsu and wrestling and working out helped my recover tremendously. So when I woke up, they told me like, hey, you're going to be in a neck brace for, like 6 weeks, the doctor said. So I woke up and he was like, dude, he goes, your bone density, he goes, I went through 4 drills. And this is a pretty experienced doctor, at the Mayo Clinic. Like, he's like, I broke 4 drill bits. He goes, look, you don't need a neck brace. He's like, that's for people that their bone density isn't strong enough to hold the equipment. He's like, it's in there, dude. Like, unless you do something really stupid, like it's in there. So like I walked out of the hospital with no neck brace, no nothing. So I will say, like, although some of this stuff does cause these injuries, of course it causes them. And I think anyone could, that's training jiu-jitsu with any regularity, like you're definitely physically going to have issues as you get older. It's just part of the game, but it also, allows you to recover a little bit quicker too. So like my bone density was good and, it's definitely better, but my arm is certainly not where I would like it to be. It's stronger. The muscles are coming back. I'm rolling again now. But I really didn't do anything. One thing that my doctor put me on was low dose, like therapeutic dose TRT. And he's like, this will help preserve some of your muscle mass going forward. So like one thing I can tell you, like, because I wasn't lifting weights or anything, obviously for months before, until I got cleared by the doctor. Whoever says like that isn't cheating is 100% full of it. It is cheating 1000%. I mean, I was 51 years old, not working out after a surgery and had, abs through the whole thing. So it's 1000% cheating. I mean, you could say whatever you want about it. It is 1000% cheating. I felt great. I didn't lose a whole lot of muscle mass. And that was by choice. And I wasn't even blasting it. Like I kept my levels in what, and it was a medical doctor that didn't. So I didn't go to one of these BS clinics, it was like my family doctor who I see for my regular checkups and things like that. So they, he got it to like, he's like, hey, we, just being medically responsible. I can't push this past a certain limit. We could just get you in an optimized range. And it just made a huge difference. So I always laugh, when I'm scrolling on social media and you see this big, like tatted up bald dude with a giant beard screaming at you that he's got low T with his eyeballs bulging out of his head. And, it's like, they're full of it, man. I mean, like it's 1000% performance enhancing. It's 1000% cheating. I think it is, my personal opinion, it's extremely irresponsible to compete in a sport, especially a combat sport, that and you're doing it, and it's not just everybody's doing it. I mean, it's 1,000% cheating. And whoever says it isn't, either one is not doing it right, or two is lying, because it is. So I'm feeling pretty good. I'm same as you. Like, I roll with a very specific group of guys that I trust, that I know are not big. I don't roll with anyone really my size yet, just in case there's a problem. And I just work positions, man. Half guard top, half guard bottom, full guard bottom. Like, I'm not like slapping hands, standing up and going live with anybody.
Oh
Not
yeah.
yet. So but that has helped tremendously, because being off the mat sucks. And because not only physically are you used to doing it, at least you and I are, it's just mentally. That's like, that's my community, man. Like, I'm married with 2 kids. Like, I don't really have friends. I don't golf. My friends are all from jiu-jitsu. So I would go and I would sit there and I'd watch and hang out, but it's not the same, man. It's not the same. So just to get out there and be able to do it again is great. I think for mental health, I did as much as I could by the doctor. Like, I said, hey, I want to know every single thing I can do that isn't going to mess this up, what you did, but that I can do. And I want to do as much or as little of that as I can. Right. And so, like, he had me doing body weight squats like pretty much right away. He's like, you can do, he goes, I just don't want you picking anything up. I don't want you lifting anything obviously over your head. I don't want you doing push-ups, sit-ups, this for the first few months. Right. And then he kind of gradually weaned me back on the things. And now I can lift kind of moderate weights. I probably wouldn't try to PR anything, but I don't do that anyway. But the other issue is I tore my rotator cuff a couple years ago and had that repaired. And that was never right. And so I have tried some peptides with that, specifically the BPC157. So I went to a clinic and got it there and did a little bit of research, but it's kind of hard to find a pharmacy that is really transparent about what they're doing and where they're getting the stuff. So I actually found a medical doctor, again, an board certified MD, that uses a legitimate compounding pharmacy in the United States to make it. And when I started using that stuff and doing the protocol he said, I noticed a huge difference in pain management. I don't feel like my shoulder got much stronger, and I don't know if you MRI'd it, if you would see any physiological change or healing, but the pain management was significant. And I was just doing an injection with an insulin syringe, as close to the site of where it hurt, in my arm. And so I've experienced pretty good benefits with that from a pain management perspective, but it's good, not great, is what I would say. So like, I know these things are really being pushed, and maybe other people that have a lot of money and are famous can get, all kinds of different stuff. But for me, I did notice a pretty significant reduction in pain in certain ranges of motion. Didn't really notice a huge strength benefit so far. It's been about 2.5 months, but I also don't want to take this stuff forever either, right? And so I want to see what kind of when to take a break and whether you cycle it on or off. And so the doctor, he's got a pretty complex protocol, and that's kind of what I'm going by.